Wow. Councilman Davis, can you believe again we are here continuing our Black History Moments in 2014? Are you excited?
LaShawn, I'll tell you, I can't believe how time flies.
Well, I tell you, right here on our set, we have with us on today Reverend Dr. Milner and Reverend Motley, and we are here on Cascade Road in Atlanta visiting Dr. Milner in the sanctuary right here at the Chapel of Christian Love Missionary Baptist Church. I want to make sure I keep Missionary Baptist Church. Reverend Milner, can you please just give us a little introduction of how long have you been here and introduce your colleague, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, we've been at this location about 19 years. The church is 37 years old, and we founded the church primarily to reach those who were impoverished and who tend to be overlooked by the traditional church. Yeah, and my colleague, Brother Motley, we've worked together over the years. He's from the Lindsay Street Baptist Church and been there a number of years. He's also the president of the Community Development Corporation for the English Avenue Vine City area. All
right. Well, the focus this year, 2014, Councilman Davis, how long have we been discussing this focus? Specifically this year, we're going to focus on pastors in the African American church. How long have we been talking
LaShawn,
about that?
You know, when we sat down and you asked me, said, what are we focusing on this year? And I said, let's go into the Afro-American churches and interview pastors. You say, yes, that's a good idea. And here we are today.
Well, Dr. Reverend Milner, I'm so honored. You and I sit on the Regional Commission for Homelessness.
Right.
So you and I actually have been discussing how can we get together and talk about the concerned Black clergy. And I know that you at one point was the president of the Concerned Black Clergy. So for Councilman Davis and I, we have pastors that are in Douglas County, Douglasville, and they're active in the community. Sometimes we have just a little challenge on how to keep them encouraged and ignited because their schedules are busy, our schedules are busy. So can you shine some light on the model that you use here? And many of the pastors, actually, they know you, Reverend Milner, so you're everywhere. So kind of shine some light and tell us what you do.
I was one of the founding members of the Concerned Black Clergy, but I think it's important to point out that from its inception, we were not all black and we were not all clergy. There were certainly lay members from our various congregations, and there were white pastors. Not all were Christians. Some were from synagogues, but most were from the Christian community. We were founded around a couple of issues. You may not be old enough to remember when we had this whole thing with Wayne Williams and the missing and murdered children.
Yes.
The clergy began to try to see how do we address that issue. But when the issue of homelessness began to prevail, be too prevalent in the city of Atlanta that Maynard Jackson declared was too busy to hate, but we also recognized we were too busy to stop to feed the hungry. And so we came together with the judicatory heads to see what we could do to address that issue. So the bishops and district superintendents of those connected churches and presidents of the Baptist conventions, they came together and invited young pastors like myself to be a part of that. At that time, we used various sites to serve the homeless. My church was located out in what we call the Adamsville area, and there were 3 or 4 churches that would help provide resources for people to come there to eat, to get clothing, to get monetary assistance. There were 5 such sites, and there were clusters, we call them, and there were clusters of churches that supported it. We didn't seek any monies at the time from anybody else but the churches, so it wasn't driven by government per se. The Concerned Black Clergy now has evolved over 26, 7 years, and our current president will join you later to tell you what their focus is today. But it is our intent to partner with and not to usurp the services of the government,
Absolutely.
but to partner with the government and to partner in an interfaith effort. We had, as I mentioned, the Jewish community, but we also had the Muslim community to be a part as well. Some of the lay persons didn't quite think it ought to be interfaith, but the problem didn't have boundaries, and we didn't think the solution should have any either.
Right. Reverend Motley, do you have any comments? Any comments in regards to your participation?
Sure. I participated with my good friend Dr. Milner early on in the forming of the concerned clergy, but I became sort of diverted into a lot of community involvement in the English Avenue community because of the demands of our community. So we remain supportive of the Concerned Black Clergy, and I am involved now, but never to the leadership extent of my good friend Dr. Milner, who gave superb and excellent leadership to the organization, along with all of the other presidents, Cornelius Henderson and McKinley Young and others.
Well, Dr. Lowry also gave us our first staff. You know, he had people that were hired by SCLC who became the staff people for Concerned Black Clergy. So it was Dr. Lowry and people on that level who could bring to bear the resources that we needed to operate. See, my church was small and didn't have monies to help fund a staff in person, but SCLC could do that. The AME Church, you mentioned Bishop McKinley Young, they could help with that. The General Missionary Baptist Convention of Georgia, they could help. Dr. Cameron Alexander, they could help. People like me, we were kind of the gophers, and so it was subsequently I became their third president, but they gave credibility to what we were doing, and as a result, I think the broader community, businesses and others, would help fund the effort. And I think that's the key. Clergy bring the moral mandate, and those in leadership, be they bishops or presidents, whatever potentate they may be, they can legitimize, if you will, what we're doing, and the smaller churches can bring the people to actually do the hands-on work and even facilities per se. And then when the business community recognizes that, I know like Coca-Cola, Georgia Power and others, they would bring in then monies on our annual fundraising thing. So you have to have buy-in, I think. Yeah, from the entire community. You have to, first of all, recognize the program.
Right.
I mean, the problem, identify the program to address it, and then you have to fortify it with the resources. And government has its place, and they also, FEMA, would channel monies through Concerned Black Clergy to help pay folks arrears on rent rather than let them get set out. And it's much harder to get people back in permanent housing than it is to just keep them there to begin with. So those you have to see the partnership there, the weaving there.
Right.
Don't let him minimize, however, his role
and what he does.
or his leadership tenure, because he took it to another level.
And I want
Yes.
to take it to another level. We're going to pause just for a moment because we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of what's really going on in the city of Douglasville. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
We are back. Councilman Davis?
We're back, LaShawn. You mind if I call you LaShawn?
Please do. You know, we
So I
have it like
was
that,
calling you
Sam.
Council Lady LaShawn, but let me just call you LaShawn.
You can do that. You
Thank
have
you.
it. Yes.
We're back.
All right. Reverend Milner, who do we have with us?
Okay, this is our president, current president of the Concerned Black Clergy, Pastor Frank Brown. And we certainly glad to see
Mr.
you.
Brown.
Thank you for taking time.
Thank you
so much.
When I
Thank you.
found
Great to
that
meet
Dr.
you.
Lowry could not make it because of some challenges, I called Pastor Brown, and he was in a meeting and said he would come over and join us if he could. And I'm glad to see that you're able to do that.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Pastor Brown, for joining us. It's our pleasure. Councilman Davis and I plan to have this specific topic about African American pastors this year, 2014. Currently, our current mayor, Mayor Persons, is doing a great job with having a meeting every single month with the clergy throughout Douglasville, Douglas County. It started initially, I asked Mayor Persons initially if he would meet with the concerned black clergy in Douglasville. He agreed to do that. However, he did state that he wanted the meeting to be a joint, not just with black pastors. My intention definitely was not to give any reason of division. However, being an African American female living in a community, growing up in a typically African American church, I know that there are some issues that our children may face that other children may not face. And we had a bit of a challenge getting this filmed, Reverend Milner, and we had initially invited Reverend Lowry. However, due to challenges, as Reverend Milner has stated, was not able to be here. And Reverend Brown, we are definitely honored. But Councilman Davis, would you like to just expound a little bit on the challenges that we're having, and we'll go from there?
Well, Pastor Brown and Pastor Milner, we are, as African American in the city of Douglasville and Douglas County, and our churches, I believe, LaShawn and I, we visit all the churches and we get involved. And sometimes we would like to just take it to another level and have the concerned black clergies to come out and just share some of the vision, because the city of Atlanta is huge and it's faced with a lot of poverty, homeless. In Douglasville, we have a lot of that. So we got to figure out through our churches how to get connected and how to move in a direction where we can sort of bring it out of poverty, or homeless get better. I'm on the homeless board, LaShawn on the homeless board, and every month we meet, and there's challenges.
Well, I'm glad, first of all, that you all have recognized that you have some homeless folk in Douglasville. See, for a long time, the outlying counties did not recognize that. That's where the Regional Commission, I think, has done a great job in helping to find resources, because that's always an issue. Do we put out the money we do have in this problem or that problem? So I want to commend the county leaders for being a part of the Regional Commission on Homelessness and beginning to do that. You want to talk a little bit about what we do as far as our children? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Pastor Brown.
Certainly, and thank you so much. And I hear the concerns that you have as it relates to clergy coming together and dealing with some of the issues that we face in all of our communities. And it is something that is extremely important for us to wrap our hands around and become involved. And I think the first thing that we as clergy must do is, one, realize that there is a problem, and secondly, that we cannot solve it by ourselves. We cannot just continue to remain in our own little silo and believe that, you know, some of these challenges that we face in our various communities are going to be resolved. It's going to take some collaboration. And that is one of the things that we are able to do here through our clergy group, to collaborate with others who may have assets, who may have knowledge, who may have resources, that empower us to be able to address those problems in a significant way. One of the things that we have been doing here at Concerned Black Clergy in Metro Atlanta as relates to our young people, we've adopted one of the schools in our community as a school that had some significant challenges as relates to testing and things of that nature. And we're always concerned, you know, whenever our children have some problems. We know that there has been a great deal of information on the news about the school system here in the Atlanta area, and we've had a number of conversations with the school board and with many other people concerning those matters. But we determined if we were going to be able to make some positive steps in order to provide uplift to our young people, that we had to actively get involved. And so we adopted one of the schools in our community, the Cascade Elementary School, that is not far from here. And first we wanted to make sure that the young people knew that we were there for them, so we were doing things like providing book bags and school supplies. We stocked their school store on a regular and ongoing basis throughout the year so that they can have resources to do their work. Right now we're gathering Christmas toys so that they can have toys for Christmas. But beyond that, we are there during the spring when they are preparing for testing with tutors who are helping them to elevate themselves academically. And I would say, you know, last year their scores went up, you know, and I won't say that all of it was because Concerned Black Clergy was involved, but I would say that some of that is because we were involved. And so we recognized that there was a problem, and we wanted to make sure that there were some manageable solutions that were put on the table, and that was one of the ways that we were able to do that.
If I may interrupt, I'll tell you, Reverend Brown, you are very passionate about what you're doing, and we have pastors that are in the city of Douglasville. I mean, we can name a numerous amount of activities that our pastors do, from the volunteering with the food bank, clothing. They do clothing drives. A lot of our pastors work during the day. So our clergy, current clergy meeting with our mayor is during the day. The pastors that can come, they do. However, our heartbeat is we want to see more representation of our African American pastors being hands-on and involved. This is not to bash any of our pastors. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I would like to know, how do you communicate? Do you communicate via email, newsletter? Well, we've done it all. We've sent letters, made phone calls, made visits, and we have some pastors that are very, very active, and we will be interviewing them later on in this segment of this topic. And I know we don't have all the answers today, but where do we start?
Let me say to you, you know, the pastors, especially with 100 or less members, they're so busy trying to keep the lights on and stuff like that.
Yes.
Often they want to know what's in it for us. You know, and I think it has to be an incentive to get people to come together. We talk about Concerned Black Clergy. You may want to talk about some of your supporters that are not black clergy, like, and I hate to start calling names, but North Avenue Presbyterian, we worked with this human trafficking thing together. Central Prayers, when a long time ago, Joanna Adams was pastor there, and then she went over to Trinity. Those churches partner with Concerned Black Clergy. First, I keep Presbyterian. There's some white Baptist churches too that are. I don't keep calling them Presbyterian. My sister would think that I should have been Presbyterian along with her and her husband. But that's the thing. They may not be hands-on, but they'll write a check, and then they'll send missionaries into the churches to help out. So it has to be, you mentioned collaboration. So you want to talk about some of those supporters that
and you have about 30 seconds, and we're going to wrap it up. Okay.
Well, it is important that we have collaborators, and some of those churches that Dr. Milner has indicated have always been strong supporters of the work of Concerned Black Clergy. As he mentioned earlier, you know, we're not all black, we're not all clergy, but we are all concerned. And so because we have that common goal, that common mission, you know, we have that heartbeat in order to make sure that people in our community, red, yellow, black, white, whatever they are uplifted out of the dire circumstances that they face each and every day. And here in Atlanta, we know that we have a lot of folks who, you know, are considered, quote unquote, the downtrodden, you know, but we can't just just walk by them each and every day.
Absolutely.
You know, we've got to do something to help them because, but it was not by the grace of God. It could be, you know, one of us. And so each and every Monday morning we gather for a community forum where all of the issues are placed on the table. You have a number of clergy, you have a number of lay people, a number of community folks, a number of corporate people who come together to hear the issues, and that is where we're able to make the determination as it relates to what issues we move forward and attempt to address.
And because we're getting ready to end it, and thank you so much for your comments, but because we have a moment of Black history, and no, it is not a black and white issue, but we do have a national holiday that recognizes Black history. And during that time, we focus on issues that we want to uplift or build up for our African American community. And it just so happened that we're talking about African American pastors. And without church, without God, there would be no African American history. So we're going to end this segment and come back later on and tie it up with some of the pastors in the city of Douglasville in the county to talk about some issues. And Reverend Milner, we would love to have you and Dr. Brown to come out and help us continue to encourage our pastors, because we have great pastors in the community. So I'd like to end with that comment. This ends our segment. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He wants us to move from that complaining mode. Amen. Why? Because there is a bomb in you. Amen. That's healing the sin-sick soul. There's a bomb in Gilead. Amen. That heals us when we don't know which way to go. And if I'm going to do the will of God, I can't stay in the complaining mode. I can't stay there and nurse my pain and suck my thumb. I can't stay there and have a pity party. Amen. If I'm going to do what God says, if I'm going to do it, I got to make a shift. Angels ain't going to do it for me. Another prophet can't do it for me. I got to do it for myself. Boy, brother, how do you do that? You got to change your thinking. I can't change my feeling, but I can change my thinking. Come on now. I know that's true because the Bible says a man thinketh in his heart. So whatever you think is what you become. I don't hear about it. Amen. You got to change your way of thinking. Do I have a witness here? Amen. You can't stay in that complaining mode. Do I have a witness?
Once again, we're here again in the city of Douglasville for our moment of Black history. And LaShawn, we are here.
I tell you, Councilman Davis, I'm so excited that we have in our presence 4 of our pastors and Lady Williams, who's with us to discuss the second part of our segment. This month we are concentrating on our African American pastors in the city of Douglasville. I'll start with allowing First Lady Williams, please introduce yourself, and then we'll go counterclockwise.
Hello. I bring you greetings from Golden Memorial United Methodist Church here in Douglasville, Georgia, where my pastor and husband, Dr. Gregory S. Williams, is minister, the senior minister there. And we believe that kindness is key, and we welcome all walks of life into our sanctuary.
Bishop Parker?
Hi, I'm Bishop Randy Parker, pastor of Greater Mount Olive Overcoming Church of God here in Douglasville, Georgia, the oldest Pentecostal church in the Black community. And I'm also a resident of Douglasville, Georgia, and glad to be here.
Thank you.
Pastor Hale.
Yes, my name is Keenan, Reverend Keenan D. Hale Sr. I'm the senior pastor at St. James AME Church, located here in Douglasville, Georgia, where St. James has been around for over 130 years. Our motto at St. James is where God guides, God provides.
And
That's right.
Good evening. I'm Pastor James Wright, Senior Pastor of Zion Hill Baptist Church Truth Center. And we're glad to be here on this segment. And we are there as a truth center because John 8:32 says, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So we're glad to be here today.
All right. Well,
Thank
Councilman
you.
Davis, do you remember, of course, this morning, the earlier part of our segment, we had the great opportunity to interview Dr. Reverend Milner and Reverend Brown. We were with them, and Reverend Milner actually was designing and describing the model that they have used in Atlanta for over 30 years with the Concerned Black Clergy. And one thing that he brought out was the name Concerned Black Clergy is not just for black people or African Americans. So what Councilman Davis and I decided to do, along with Reverend Milner, as they discussed the activities that they do and how the pastors get together every month, and they've been actually doing this for over 35 years, we wanted to interview some of our pastors in the city of Douglasville to discuss what is it that you're doing in your own church body with your congregation, and what are you doing with the community as it relates to activities. And we want to know, what is it that we can do to better serve you so that we're coming together as one body. So let me just start with our dear Lady Williams. Can you just tell us one activity or event that you do at Golden Memorial with the community that's a big hit with the community that our audience may not know that you're doing?
Well, I think one of our most popular events was this past Thanksgiving. We gave over 200 turkeys out in Thanksgiving boxes, and Saturday morning before Thanksgiving, the parking lot was just full. People were seated in folding chairs, and apparently the word had gotten out that we were doing this, and it was such a big turnout, and we were just blessed to be able to bless the community. And I think if we needed anything else, I think just more things to help us be more accessible to the community. We need more, men to help with, the boxes, and just people to come out and get these things delivered with these people. And I think to make it more successful, because we want it to grow. And we want it to be even bigger next year, and it was very successful. So we were pleased to just be a part of that and be able to provide for the community in that way.
Okay, great. Councilman Davis, do you have a question?
I have a question. As your role as a First Lady in the Afro-American Church, what are your role as First Lady?
Well, my role is just really to be supportive to my husband, and I'm supportive in the church. Also, and I have a family, and I'm also related to the community because I am a teacher here in Douglasville. So I play a lot of roles, believe it or not. But as First Lady, other than being a wife and a mother of 2 children, I support him in everything that he does. And I have ministries of my own. I have a support group for breast cancer that I'm glad to overcome myself. And I have a grant ministry, which I try to help with my husband fulfill a vision that we want to hopefully have for the community, a life center where we're able to cater to the youth and the elderly and have so many things functioning for them. So not only do I support, but I do as much as I can to try to minister and, share my talents that I have. Also.
And I've heard your CD. She's a great singer now.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Councilman Davis, I really want to get down to the meat and potatoes. Okay, all right. We've done all the preliminaries. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. And I'm not going to ask specifically. I want each one of you to answer this question, but let me direct this to our seasoned pastor, who's been in the city of Douglasville. I would say Reverend Wright. Out of our 3 ministers and pastors that are here, you are the oldest, not in age, but senior pastor in the city of Douglasville in this panel.
Yes.
Now, we have over I would say, well over 200 churches, whether it be in a home, storefront, a church building in the city of Douglasville. And we are very limited with the amount of council members that are in the wards. Reverend Wright, I'd like to ask you, because this question was brought to me by an activist in Douglasville. Asked me to ask this question. That when there are meetings that another church is having, or someone wants to call all the pastors together, particularly the African American pastors, and they send letters, they make phone calls, and at the meeting, you may have one or two show up. Can you, Pastor Wright, elaborate on what may be some barriers that causes one or two not to participate in, let's say, Bishop Parker's church anniversary or Reverend Hale's anniversary? What do you see, or what have been the challenges for you, and you may see for others?
Well, one of the things that I see a lot of time that may be a situation where at that particular time a pastor may not be available, but I think that it has to be a sense of urgency given to let pastors know that this meeting is important, because we are the ones that's going to deal with our congregation. They look to us for information.
Yes.
And we are the ones that need to get together and get the information so we can bring it back to them. Now, if we don't bring it back, most of them do not attend the meeting. And I have a couple of deacons sometime that I tell them, I said, listen, I'm tired of, can you make the meeting? He said, yes, I can go. But there has to be an express sense of urgency that what we are meeting for is not just to waste time, but to discuss some issues that we can use to better things in our community among our people.
Right.
And those are things, and sometime maybe, I know letters have been sent out, and I would hope and pray that these letters are just not taken for granted, but that needs to be a sense of urgency, that this is important. We need to come together, because if we don't, what is going to happen? We're going to still having people come to church getting high and still leaving with the same problems.
Right.
We need to be able to discuss some of the problems and situation that is going on among the people in the community, and let them know that as a church, it's not all about just preaching the gospel, because there are some things that you got to deal with has nothing to do with church.
All right.
And so people need to understand that when we have these meetings, it's important for somebody to be there and represent.
So I just heard you make a statement, and you said it's not so much as getting high. And I want to clarify, because I understand where you're coming from with that comment, meaning on Sunday morning when you're preaching in the fifth gear, and we are, oh God, love you, Lord, and we leave church that Sunday and go home to our normal day-to-day activities, and then it goes away during the week. Is that what you were elaborating on when you made that comment?
Because sometimes I do have a thing within me, in a sense, where I'm disturbed, because if people are coming just as a habit, and when you get through preaching, they call you and want to have a conference. And I'm saying, if you had been listening, some of the things that you wanted to know would have already been answered.
That's good.
But people have got to understand that church is serious business. And we've gotten caught up in the thing of just doing it as a habit and thinking that it's just for the preacher and the deacon. And I tell them all the time, when I'm up here preaching, it's not for me, it's for you. I already got what I need. I'm trying to give you something that will help you when you leave here and know how to conduct yourself with your family.
Every day.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have a question for Bishop Parker or Reverend Hale? Councilman Davis.
We'll start with Bishop Parker. He's born and raised here. I've seen him come up as a little young man singing in the community choir, and I tell you, when he take it to another level, the Spirit of the Lord just come out. Bishop Parker, tell us as a panel, I did not know that was Pentecostal. My mother used to tell me Greater Mount Olive, the Sanctified Church. Explain that to me.
Well, Pentecostal is just what we call a sort of a denomination, but the truth of the matter is that all of us should have that Pentecostal experience. There's one Lord, one faith, and one baptism. And so one Lord over all, through all, and in all. So everybody is really Pentecostal to an extent if we go to church with the same purpose in mind.
I just learned something, LaShawn.
All right.
Thank you,
Sam,
Bishop
you may
Parker.
need to visit Bishop Parker's church a little bit more
I
often.
will.
Pastor Hill, I'd like to ask you this question. I see you often attending the clergy meetings that's held here each month with our mayor persons that started about a year ago. And you are a full-time pastor in church, and you work full-time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, tell us, Pastor Hill, how do you make time to attend so many meetings? Because I see you a lot. I see you a lot more than I see maybe someone who's representing you. Can you elaborate on that?
It's about just prioritizing. I believe that a congregation will do better when they are better informed, and I believe that is my job and opportunity to share information with them so that they can better conduct themselves and be better prepared to deal with the things in the community and to sometimes ward off some issues that may be coming their way. So it's all about prioritizing a schedule.
Okay.
That's it.
Now, another challenging issue that I believe we have to address as black people and black pastors, because you are the ones that have your laborers in front of you, the congregation, whatever time, how many times during the week. What can we do to help minimize and eliminate? When you look at the numbers in jail, the numbers of African American blacks have the highest number. And let's bring it on home to Douglasville. When you look at alternative school, the numbers are higher than any other race. Now, this is a real challenging question that we don't all have the answers. But how do we reach back? How do you help one, help another, and help another so that we can help each other to minimize those numbers? What can we do? Who'd like to answer that?
I think we just have to provide programs that lend to giving the information. We have to bring the education to the church and bring the church to the education facilities. Where I work, we have, a church program for the kids, and a lot of them go to it, and they're given Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and they love it. But they're getting a word, and they're not really realizing it. They get a little 15-minute Bible study. They're asked questions, and as they come to my classroom, they're feeling better about themselves. So bringing, I think, the church to the school, putting education in the church hand in hand, I think we have to work a little closer together, church and the education institutions, and I think that would really make a difference.
Right. I see that our time is running up, and I wish that we had more time in this segment, and we'll do this again. I can say that we'll do it again. But also, one comment that has been made, or is always made, is there's no divide in the church. It's not black and it's not white, and we know that. However, this is Black History Month, and this is our moment to celebrate and elaborate on black history, although black history is every day in our day. But in closing, give us a comment on how and what can you say to the audience that will take away the barriers of just church being a race. It's not just a race. Bishop Parker.
Well, if we think in terms of unity, unity is very vital in the body of Christ, period, but especially amongst our African American churches. If we learn how to unite and not duplicate the wheel, if Golden has something going on, if Zion Hill has something, St. James has something going, rather than somebody trying to do the same program, we should try to get involved in their program and work together. Working together works.
Very good.
Working together works.
Pastor Hale, that's a good point.
To answer your question, I think in terms of God's love and his mercy, when it says that he's of no respect of person, and he said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And I think when we look at that piece of scripture, realizing that we're talking about all mankind and not just a race of people, but God is here for everyone. And it's our job as leaders in the community to share that and make the brothers and sisters of whatever ethnicity feel comfortable in that regard when they come into your doors.
Right. And Pastor Wright, will you just elaborate, and I've just been tapped, but I have to get this, a little bit on forgiveness. You were talking about that earlier before we started. Just give us a little glimpse.
One thing that I've been for the last 2 months, that I've been dealing with the congregation and telling them that there has to be a shift. I've been dealing with the mind, because Proverbs says, as a person believeth in their heart, so is he. And the thing that I've been talking about, the shift, that people in church have got to shift their thinking to get away from this thing of separatism or any clique, and understand that all of us are here for the same person, that if you're not saved, you're lost, and we all need to be working together for the good of the whole. And a lot of people, I think, don't seem to get that, and we keep hounding that in. You need to change the way you think about things. Change the way you look at church. Change the reason why you come to church. Change the reason about what you're trying to get while you're there. It's not a matter of just coming and sitting down for 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and then leaving, going to Golden Corral. No, what are you getting? If you're hungry enough, you can get something while you're in service that will help you when you leave service. Because people, I think, some of them are coming just out of habit, and I'm trying to get people to understand that you shouldn't be coming out of habit. What are you doing that will please God, and how much can God use you in his program?
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Wright. And Sam, I tell you, they're so passionate. We could go on and on.
I don't want to stop. You know,
we're gonna have to.
We have to, but I got to hear about this food pantry. Once a month, Pastor Hale.
I tell you what.
Have cars backed up for about a mile by the barbershop.
Well, Councilman Davis, I tell you what, we're going to wrap it up. To our
Thank
audience
you.
that's listening, we thank our First Lady Williams, Bishop Parker, Reverend Hale, Reverend Wright for
Thank
joining
you.
us this February 2014 to enjoy the moments, Black history, concentrating on our African American pastors right here in the city of Douglasville. Thank you,
Thank
and God bless you.
See you.
Oh, gracious Father, come again, Father, thanking you for all you've done for us. Oh, Lord, we thank you for enabling us to come out in the house one more time. Oh, Lord, we had a bad week, Father. Cold, Father. But, Lord, we're so glad to come out in your house again, Father. We know, Father, that you had us in your hand, Father, because we survived, Father. We survived cold weather, Father. Able to come out in a pleasant time, Father, calling up on your name, Father, and saying thank you, Father. Thank you, Father, for it all, Father. But we know, Father, everything you do, Father, is a reason, Father. And we just want to say thank you, Father. Oh, Lord, as we went down the highways and the byways, Father, we thank you for letting our cars run on, Father, and didn't break down on the byways or the highways, Father, and getting morning, Father. Oh, Lord, you've been good to me, Father God. Up and down, Father God. Up and down the highways, Father God. You've been good to me, Father God. Father, we come praying for our pastor this morning, Father God. Come praying for his family this morning, Father God. Come praying for all the children of our church this morning, Father. Stand with us in our Sunday school, Father God. Stand with us on our people bowl, Father God. Go with our mother bowl, Father God. Stand with our ushers this morning, Father God. Go with our men squad this morning, Father God. Stand with our mayor, Father God. We try, Father, but can't do anything without you, Father God. Oh, Lord, oh, Lord. I just want you to touch me this morning, Father God. Oh, Lord, touch me, Father God. Touch me with a love this morning, Father. Oh, Lord, I thank you, Father. Touch me with a love this morning, Father God. We know our future, that, Father, is in your hand, Father God. Oh, Lord, we don't cry, Father. Pray for the bereaved family this morning, Father God. Oh, Lord, I thank you last night, Father. One of my classmates there, but oh, Lord, I don't know, Father, when my day will come, Father God. When that day comes, Father God. Oh, when the gates swing open, Father God. I know they will one day, Father God. When the gates swing open, Father. Oh, Lord, I ask that you just come a little closer to me, Father. Oh, Lord, when the gates swing open, Father. What I want to hear, Father, welcome home, sir. Welcome home, sir. You did somebody, Father. You love somebody, sir. Oh, you did good for somebody, sir. And welcome home. With these all these blessings, Father, we ask